In this short video, I want to introduce you to 3 or 4 of the typical patterns that we have seen emerge in individual transformative action unlearning pathways. This is I would say right at the outset, this is not going to be a fully comprehensive list. There are patterns that we don't know about yet, and you're welcome to add your own thinking in here. One of the reasons why it's advantageous to know about some of the common patterns is that we have a certain level of preparedness then for dealing with them. So the first pattern that I'd like to describe is the try-veer pattern. Okay, so this is a pattern where there are several routes which are rather like pathways, which is what veer means, and classically this would be a 3-path situation, and the issue for us is knowing which route to take out of this place. Now it's very helpful to know that this pattern was recognized by the ancients, particularly the goddess cultures of old Europe, and they understood that the most important thing to do when faced with this multiple choice situation, which path shall I take, was to spend time looking for the insight. And in fact, there's a description of sitting on a 3-legged stool by the try-veer itself and meditating and seeking the divination, seeking to divine what it is that one might need to do. So it's a place where significant amounts of insight are very useful. Okay. Now, of course, it's completely possible that we might choose a path which we might describe as somehow mistaken. Maybe it comes across a large obstacle in some way. So I'm going to call this the mistakes pattern. Okay, and this is one which reaches back into our own individual personal history and our conditioning around making mistakes. All of us will have had some issue about how to deal with mistakes in our young lives, and we may either have been very sympathetically treated by adults or quite harshly treated by adults by making mistakes, or maybe our culture has got something quite negative about making mistakes in it, and it often creates a lot of difficulties for us. So there's something to do with attitudes in here based on early experiences that we might need to pay some attention to, because we can pretty much say that in this transformative action unlearning culture that Gaia University is supporting, if you're not making mistakes, then you're not being bold enough. Okay, so that's the issue here. So we might have to do some emotional processing work to release ourselves from some of the terror of making mistakes in order that we can become really bold, successful, transformative action unlearners. Okay, so making mistakes is a key place to be thinking about. So we might need to learn how to make mistakes, notice these, and then choose to flow around them and find our next piece of pathway with ease and grace. The third pattern that I'd like to look at is the transition pattern. And we have several models that we use in Gaia University which are to do with transition, and this will be part of our talc work later on, is to look at some of these models in greater depth and I'll give you some references in the book that goes with these videos so that you can go have a look at some of those already. But effectively, transition looks something like this, that we are proceeding along fairly steadily and things are going reasonably well, and then what happens is that some sort of struggle might emerge, and the ways of thinking that we have been using in the past seem somehow inadequate for dealing with the current situation. So there's possibly a collapse of some sort, which might feel a bit rough until we get to some sort of bottoming out place. And as we ride along this bottom, this itself might also feel quite rough and sawtooth-like, until such times as we start to make some recovery from this, which may not itself be particularly even, but eventually we find ourselves on a new path which has the same sort of steadiness and purposefulness quality of the path that we had as we entered into this situation. So that's a typical transition pathway that you could imagine might be going on for you in the overall picture of the transformative action learning pathway. So each of us could imagine that we are probably somewhere in this transition pathway right now. So some of us might be at a place where we're coming to the end of an effective paradigm. Okay, some of us may already have reached that stage and be in this period of chaos, which is where there's a deep dive with all of this rough, emotionally challenging, life-changing bumpiness in the whole pattern, and that some of us may in fact have found ourselves at a place where we've got a new beginning and a new purposefulness. So I expect we could all answer that question, and indeed I'll be asking it. I'll be saying, so where are you in the transition cycle right now? And maybe we might even think about how many transitions we've been through already and describe those in some way. It's very helpful to look at the process of transition, because we could reasonably say that on the one hand, for us as individuals, being able to gracefully move through transition and build the necessary support networks that allow us to do this deep dive, the letting go is one way of thinking about this. What we have to do is we have to let go of a whole bunch of thinking here, and we also have to let come a whole bunch of thinking here. This is a very challenging process, and if we've built good support networks around us, things get much easier. And we could say that our personal skill at handling this is one of the most important skills that we can offer to everybody else in the world, because we know that this is what human culture is engaged in right now. We are coming to the end of a historic 500-year long way of being, which is where neoliberal capitalism has come from. We are entering, we can already see the beginnings of the period of chaos on quite large scale turning up right now. So this bumpy ride is beginning to happen, and sometimes in some places we might be able to see the shoots of new beginnings happening, and therefore part of our job, part of our work as world changers, is to assist everybody else to go through their transition processes in as constructive and clear way as they possibly can, in order that there are enough of us at the place of new beginning soon enough to be able to lift the human cultures out of chaos. Okay, I'll look at the other three shortly in a different video. Thank you for listening to this.